Thank you very much, President. Simon Weller, ASLEF, the Train Drivers Union. We've had many things to celebrate in the last year or so, one of which is the renationalisation of the passenger railway, finally ending the failed experiment of privatisation of British Rail. However, I chose my words quite carefully when I said the passenger railway, because the freight operations are still privatised. Privatised red in tooth and claw. And the reasons that passenger failed, that there was no guiding mind, there was no long-term strategy, that it was fragmented, apply equally to the freight sector, in that the freight sector has no guiding mind, has no long-term strategy, and is also fragmented. And our view is what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. But as a political problem that I don't think that this government or previous governments quite grasp, that without having a long-term strategy for freight, we are not going to see the modal shift that we need to meet our climate targets. And part of that political problem is, I think, cowardice. Because steel, aggregates and containers don't vote. So they kind of just get forgotten. I'm loath to say shunted away, but they get forgotten. But then the political cowardice is even greater when we are talking about competition. Because they will talk about competition within the freight sector. What we are seeing is the freight operators, and there's about 4 or 5 of them, just nicking each other's work. There's nothing new coming onto the railway. There's just a race to the bottom. The competition within freight, rail freight, is with road. But it's not a level playing field, because road doesn't pay for the damage it does to the road network, whereas the freight operators have to pay for their usage of the rail network, the full cost. But the real part of the political cowardice is the fuel duty escalator. When I say it's not a level playing field, the lorries don't pay the full cost for the fuel. It's got to the extent on railways that we're using diesels rather than electric locomotives, because diesels are cheaper to run than the electric locomotives, because the freight operators have to pay the full cost for the energy. So that's the political cowardice. They talk about making sure that the things are deregulated and that we have a level playing field. Well, make a level playing field. Where they got HS2 wrong. Not making the argument for HS2 was never about high-speed passenger trains. It's about capacity so we can move more trains, more freight trains. We need that extra space in our national network. This modal shift that we need, a move from road to rail, cannot be left to the market. It has to be delivered in a long-term strategic manner. And we need to see an end of the political cowardice that we have within the rail freight sector. With that, I move.